Now, Chairman of the American Conservative Union, Chris Hahn, former aide to Chuck Schumer, and Robert Ray, former member of the White House legal team. Hello, gentlemen. Good day to all of you. Matt, you were in Nevada yesterday. Can you win that case? I mean, you just heard that gentleman say, breathtaking relief requires breathtaking evidence.
Yeah, and that's what the legal team and the other team on the ground in Nevada, really a great team, volunteers and lawyers. That's what they came up with. Bill, I've been involved in politics my entire adult life. When I hit the ground in Nevada after the election, I never thought I would see this level of provable illegal ballots in the count. Please understand, everybody needs to understand this. The judge has spreadsheets with real names and real addresses of people, of over 40,000 people who voted in 2 states, of over 20,000 people who voted without being a legal resident of Nevada, with people who voted who are green card holders. Every category that you can imagine, the judge has in his hands. And look, I assume he's a fair-minded judge. I sat through all the proceedings yesterday. You can never predict, as Robert knows, what a judge will do. But I do think anybody, even my political opponents in the Democratic Party, we should all agree, if you're not legally allowed to vote, you shouldn't be in the count, and that needs to be remedied. Or what you're essentially doing is reducing the civil rights of everybody who voted legally. It's a very simple concept, and we must stand by it.
Okay, before I get to Chris Hahn, Robert, just go ahead and address that case that Matt is laying out there in Nevada.
It's a fair point that he's making, but recognize that it's a very heavy burden. And the question is, what is the remedy? Are you going to be able to, in other words, pin the tail on the donkey to say, here's our evidence of fraud, and these particular ballots should be excluded? So, in other words, even if you can prove fraud, and obviously there's a lot of bad things that appear to have gone on, the question is, how is a judge going to sort out whether or not ballots can be invalidated, and can you actually identify those ballots and invalidate them? And can you do this, assuming also, as you just indicated in the lead-in, an appeal, and do so before December 8th, which is Tuesday, and that's the certification date with regard to state electors.
Right. Coming up quickly here, too.
All that can be done on time.
Yeah, let me bring in Chris Hahn. The difference here, it's about 33,000 votes in Nevada, Chris. How are you measuring this now?
Yeah, I measure this as Biden won Nevada, and Matt, I'll bet you the entire budget of CPAC that Biden won Nevada, and no matter what happens in court today, Biden won Nevada. Biden will be president of the United States on January 20th. It's time for the president, supporters of the president, to stop grifting people who are believing this lie that there's some sort of widespread fraud across this country. It does not exist. And quite frankly, I feel bad for Republicans in Georgia who are trying to campaign on January 5th. The president's going to go down there tomorrow, and he is going to complain about the election results and make it harder for them to get people out to vote in that runoff election on January 5th. Quite frankly, that's the best thing that could have happened to Democrats.
Okay,
Democrats always had a hard time in these runoffs.
Yeah, I shall. Chris, one moment. We'll see how Mike Pence makes that argument in a moment here in Savannah there. But, Matt, go ahead and address that.
Yeah.
Whether it's Georgia or Nevada, and the marker I'd lay down of 33,000, I think it's 33,500. We just checked them out.
You're right. Bill, you're right. You always get the numbers right. First of all, it's Nevada, so nobody's winning Nevada. And in Nevada, what we had is an election, and I agree with Robert, there is a very interesting question about what the standard is to remedy illegal ballots. But what everybody on this panel needs to understand, let's talk about the facts. We have never in our history had reckless, unsolicited mail-in ballots sent in all of these states run by blue governors and socialist governors, to the point where in the state of Nevada, I'll give you one example, 93,000 ballots were mailed that the election commissioner in Clark County knew, if they were voted on, that they were not legal votes, but he sent them anyway. Thousands of those ballots were returned. I agree. When we say what we're going to do to remedy this, my question back to Robert and to the lawyers that bring the question of legal standards is, what you're essentially arguing, or what people that oppose this are essentially arguing, is that fraud is going to happen. The more you have mail-in voting, the higher amounts of fraud you have. And
all
you just
right.
have
you
to
know what?
No, I got a minute left.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem,
no,
Matt.
Chris, hang on one second, Chris. I'll get you in a moment here. Robert, I got a minute left here. Your name was invoked. Go ahead and address Matt's issue there. from the legal
Well,
standpoint.
Matt's got a point. Look, it doesn't require, in a very close election, and this one was in certain states, and this particular state being one of them, it doesn't require a showing of widespread fraud. It just requires enough of a showing of fraud that you can pin to a batch of ballots sufficiently large that it would change the outcome. And so that's the test here. I mean, I don't disagree with the test. I think we're all in agreement on that.
Okay.
The question is, are you going to be able to get resolution before next Tuesday?
Chris, 15 seconds. I got to roll.
Yeah. So, right, there'd have to be a conspiracy to commit fraud widely, which there has been no evidence shown of that at all. And quite frankly, what the Republicans really don't want are people voting in large numbers, because it's proven now that they really can't win when they do, especially
Count every
nationally.
legal vote.
There will be a postmortem on the
by
mail-ins in various
7
states.
million votes.
Got it, Chris.
It is
thank you.
over, done.
Got to run, Matt. Thanks to you as well, and nice to see you again, Ray.